Hi, everyone. I'm Dominic, and so I graduated from Loyola in 2013 um, with a sociology degree. Um, and since then, I guess it's better if I say it like this first. I started a project when I was at Loyola um, uh, that was eventually I applied for a Ovenbach grant to do. And I started that project studying what was going on at middle school that was recruiting kids and preparing them to go to elite private schools in the tri-state area. After I wrote that project and completed it, I kind of had this interest where I said, it looks like there are like a number of organizations that do this, not just middle schools, but whole organizations. Um, and no one talks about these. Uh, and so from there, I said, well, I want to follow this track a little bit more and see what's going on here. At the same time that I was doing that, I was thinking about what I was going to do with my life. And um, being in sociology, studying sociology, um, actively while I was at Loyola was one of the first times that I saw that bright spot and said, I could do this. I could actually do research. And so uh, I went and I applied to Teachers College, Columbia, in New York City, partially because I said, I need to go to probably the most unequal place in America for schools if I really want to understand school inequality. And so I knew that was New York City, and I was not wrong. And so I applied to Teachers College, and I got in at the master's level, although I applied for a doctorate. And so I got in at the master's level and continued to scale up that project, where I was now interviewing graduates of one of these organizations who had landed at Columbia about what their experience was like navigating those programs. Um, and from there, I've scaled the project up a bit further with even more interviews. And also now I'm following a group of kids through one of these programs from middle school to high school. And that's my dissertation right now uh, at Columbia University. I'm talking for a second. Okay, you've come back. Uh, and so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm working on my dissertation uh, and studying these organizations, as well as the lives of the kids that are navigating both moving across race, class, and space for upward social mobility. And what's that like for them to do that? And so that's one of the things I'm doing right now. I'm currently in Los Angeles, where I'm working on another project that I've been hired to do by a consulting firm to evaluate a housing program that's housing insecure seniors. It's built as a homelessness prevention program, and it's a pilot for LA City. And so I was hired with a number of other researchers to evaluate the program to see if it could be scaled up as a possible solution for homelessness in Los Angeles. And they had the rare insight to want to get qualitative information about that and not just costing. And so that's how I got brought onto that project. And so I'm interviewing seniors right now who've experienced some time living on the streets about this project and how useful it is to their lives or not useful. And so if you'd have asked me if I would have done any sort of consulting work even just a year before, I would have laughed at you. Um, and I think I'm experimenting with this myself right now and learning a little bit about it. I think some of the things that I thought were right, it's fueled by evil money, but it's fueled by evil money to ask me to evaluate something that could be doing a little bit of good in the world. And so it's a little bit more complicated than um, and so uh, the other thing I'd mention is that I've been highly active in probably one of the most high profile graduate unions in the country. Um, and so uh, I'm maybe some of you have heard of the Student Workers of Columbia or the Graduate Workers of Columbia, but it's a graduate union that's been fighting with Columbia University for years. And I was elected to the bargaining for that union about a year and a half ago. And so I've been highly involved in that organization as well. And so sociology shapes, of course, my daily work as a sociologist, a researcher, but it's also shaped really the way that I approach being involved in the union as well, and thinking about inequality, and thinking structurally about issues like um, the treatment of graduate workers in universities. And so in terms of how COVID's affected my life and my work, it's greatly affected it. And so when the pandemic began, I was doing field work. Thankfully, my field site for my dissertation is New York City, but that's also the downside of that. It was New York City. And so as I was doing field work and bargaining with the university, everything shut down. And I kind of panicked. The university put all research on hold until further notice. And yeah, I made that face. That was the face that I made. And I kind of panicked. The thing that was the saving grace, though, is that schools had to continue. They had to figure it out. And so this program also figured it out and joined the Zoom universe, where I did a lot of my observations over Zoom and do some interviews over Zoom still. And so it wasn't that much of a loss, but it was a bit of a loss of information and life. There's a big part of what I argued for this project is that you have to follow these kids over the course of their life if you really want to understand what's happening. And there's a blank spot there that I'm still trying to figure out what to do with. And so other than that, it's it's ultimately affected my research, being a graduate student. But those have kind of been the main ways. Even now, I'm really hesitant about going to seniors' homes and interviewing them about their lives. And so it makes me very nervous. But we did postpone this project actually when the Omicron variant started. We were supposed to be here in January. We did back 8 February because of that. And so, yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Can I ask you one question, Dominic?
Sure.
Have you done any teaching while you've been at Columbia?
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit to that?
I also teach, and I've been a teaching assistant. Teach Intro to Sociology. And so my favorite thing about that is I get first year undergraduates who are learning about sociology for the first time, as many of you probably did. You came to college and said, "What's that?" And then you sat in a class and said, "Oh, I dig this. I want to learn more about this. And so that's my favorite thing, honestly, is that I, put people on to sociology for the first time in their lives. And so it's very exciting because I know what that did for my life when I was in Dr. Van's class. And so, um, yeah, and teaching, again, was also affected, as I'm sure your professors would tell you about teaching on Zoom. And I'm sure you all have a bit to say about it yourselves as being students on Zoom. And so that was a real challenge. I'm thankfully in a program that gives me a year just to focus on my research. And so this year I haven't needed to teach, but I'll be teaching again next year. And hopefully I'll get to design my own course for the first time. And so that would be really interesting. And so we'll see.
So Mackenzie wrote, Ashley and Dominic, how did you decide to go to grad school right away? And how did you decide where?
So deciding to go to grad school right away really was for me because I had an idea of really what I wanted to do a dissertation about up front, which is really different for most people. Um, but I want to be straight with you. I don't like school. I it is really an insufferable process. And I like what I do, right? I like the research I do. I like the topics I study. Um, we just do that in school. And so that's why I'm there. And so if you do want to go to grad school right away, um, I guess I would say to think, about what it is you would be interested in exploring. Um, don't go just to go. Uh, really don't go just to go. Um, have an idea of kind of what the goal would be for going. Um, yeah, I decided on where because I wanted to study education inequality. So I knew I had to go to a major city. So I applied to schools in Chicago. I applied to schools in New York. Um, uh, yeah, major cities where I knew that they were racially diverse and socioeconomically diverse. Yeah.
So Rixie's asking, have you guys ever doubted or regretted majoring in sociology? Do you think there could have been another path or major for you?
Yeah, I think if I have any regrets, I think it's just I've become a bit disenchanted with the project that I'm working on. It's not because I don't want to do sociology, it's because I have all these other ideas over here that look really great and I want to do those. Um, and so I think the professors can probably relate to that. Um, but I think the only other field I would be in is outdoor education. And so even before I started sociology, I was really passionate about the outdoors and was considering going into work there. Like wasn't even going to go to college, was like going to go do that. And so yeah, I still think about that sometimes. Think I might at least try and find a way to do some of that work still. Um, but for now, I've decided to keep the outdoors for myself. And so just I'm the participant on the trip. It's just me. Um, yeah.
So Mackenzie asks Dominic, if and when you design your own course, what will it be?
I want to do something about culture and education. So I imagine maybe some of you have heard of Pierre Bourdieu in some of your classes. But I want to do some work that really gets people to think also about how race and class are inflected in education, um, and what we think of is a good student. Um, and so I want to try and design a course that looks over a number of readings about how that happens. And that's really what I do in terms of my work is I study how schools shape people. Um, Uh, it's not as much about how to raise test scores for me. It's about how schools shape who people are and how they make their lives hard sometimes. How schools make people's lives hard. Yeah, so that's what I want the class.
I was just going to ask, what would you tell your senior self? So if you could go back in time, think back to when you were seniors and you were getting ready to figure out what was next, what would you tell yourself at that point in time?
Yeah, it was a little hard. I was taking some time to think. I think one of the things, yeah, I guess one of the main things I guess I would say is to not really that you can really do the work wherever you go. I think I was a little more stubborn about not about New York as much as uh, being stubborn about going to teachers college. I think I was still in a headspace where I said, um, you know, the best and brightest is all happening right here, and that's just not true. Wasn't true. Still not true. Um, and so yeah, I think uh, yeah, I guess that would be my advice is to really I think like Sierra said, just keep an open mind. Uh, what options we have. Yeah.